Welcome to Important Shift Podcast with Sarah
and Taryn, where we cover social issues, politics, popular culture, spirituality,
and basically anything and everything in between.
So let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
Woo!
All right. Hey guys, welcome. How's it going? So yeah, it is February 17th. I was like 2/17. And it is President's Day. We're out here in Hermosa Beach. So you might hear there's a bunch of people out. After it rains in LA, everybody comes out once the sun starts shining. So
it's a little bit windy, but the sun is out. And it's Trump Day. It's Q Day 17, the number 17 for all our conspiracy friends. Happy Q Day. And we're excited to see what happens now that we've got Trump in action and Doge taking down all the crap.
Yep, there's a lot of energy out and a lot of excitement. So we are here for the ride. Although we did just hear there is a restaurant, Waterman's, is closing today. So there's still impacts on the economy that just sucks. It's like it's one of the best restaurants on the pier in Hermosa Beach Pier. Taryn and I, we go out there a lot.
Sarah sings at the Lighthouse, which is it was featured in, what was that movie?
La La
Land.
Sorry, my throat's a little bit shaky. We just got over a cold. But anyway, the pier we also went out to Tower 12, which it seems like it's been there forever. And, the economy is still struggling. So we're hoping, just another 6 more months and Trump will get everything back on track because,
we're hoping it's a lot less than that, but we're giving some time to do all the stuff that they have to do, which is like change the whole world. So, I have this client I think I've talked about where we're on 2 opposite ends of the political spectrum, and he's like, well, if Trump is so great, why hasn't he taken down the price of eggs and the price of gas? And I'm like, well, he's kind of busy. He's doing a lot. But yeah, we'll all be looking forward to
like the Hamas wars.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on.
Mass deportations
and cutting all the waste spending and fraud from the government. It's a tall order.
They've already found. Are they in the trillions yet?
Oh yeah.
For Doge? Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of work. I was watching Elon. I was like, I could just see his brain go into
And it's been what, a month?
Yeah.
like more has happened in this last month than in the last 4 years.
I don't know if anybody could do what he's doing. Like, that kind of work is so tedious. It's so wonderful. But people, if you haven't thought about sitting down and looking at numbers and analyzing them and cross-referencing and checking, it is tedious work. So
I mean, I think there's a huge team that's already on it and has been on it, and for the conspiracy people, I believe that they've been working on this for the last 4 years, and that they're just rolling out some of the stuff that they've already done, and it's like there's no way that they could get done everything they have in 1 month. This is all, they're showing the results of stuff they've been working on this whole time, I believe. But that's another topic.
But yeah, it is President's Day. It's a beautiful day out here in LA, and and
that's our first podcast since the inauguration.
Yeah, it's our first podcast since the inauguration. LA, which I'm sure you've known, was on fire. Which it's not funny, actually. Some of our friends they lost their house, which was terrible.
I mean, where we're sitting right now, we can see it's a little cloudy today, a little chemtrailed today.
We can normally see.
But we can see the mountains where the fire was. So we're looking north at the Malibu coast and at the mountains. And we did come out. I was working and I was driving around during the fire, and it was insane. It really felt like the apocalypse.
And it impacted
sky was
breathing.
Like orange.
Yeah, and I get really terrible allergies whenever there's a fire. Like I remember when I first moved out here in 2008, and I was like, all of a sudden I couldn't breathe, and the whole front of my face like was so congested. I was like, what is happening? Karen's like, oh yeah, that's from the fires. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah,
Sarah's like a fire alarm. Her nose gets stuffed up when there's a fire anywhere within California.
And then the flu season took over.
Yep.
So some of our friends were sick for like 3 weeks.
We got it for a couple weeks.
It was a couple weeks. Yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of getting over it, and it was no joke. I mean, it reminded me of the times before COVID when you would, you get like this was not 72 hours, but you get a 24-hour or 72-hour flu, and, I was not a person that ever called out. I didn't align with that, and I was just a very hardworking person with a hardworking mentality, and then being in Koreatown and Korean environments, they work every day. So it was like, okay, you're sick, you keep going. Can you walk? All right,
and they were rocking the masks long before the rest of us had to.
But yeah, this flu,
which by the way we think is bullshit, but anyway.
Yeah. This was like way worse than any other COVID thing that I've had. I think I had it like 3 times, and it was like all of a sudden the flu is back, and people are out, at Trader Joe's, and they're coughing, and I was just like, wow, that's
back
crazy.
To normal. People are coughing without getting
scoffed at or
right.
Sent out of the store. And then I was like, we're now at the 5-year mark where it's been 5 years since COVID.
So crazy.
And it seems like a really long time, yet not a lot of time either. So it for humanity, it feels like we've had some kind of weird pauses, and we've been through a lot, really.
Well, and from the political side and the Q side and the Trump side, we actually have been on a pause these last 4 years, and we are coming out the other end of that. So we are going to focus today on frequency and what it means to raise your frequency.
Yeah, we were when we did take a pause, and I did kind of not work for a couple days, which was rare for me, but I was like, you know what, if we're heading to the new Earth, the 5D timeline, you should not work if you're sick. So I really kind of embodied that, self-care, taking whatever it is, cold medicine and teas and soups and baths, and and just really embodying self-care. So with that came a lot of thought, and Taryn did a session, a channeling session. I don't know if you guys have heard her channeling, but it's really amazing. Basically she does these sessions where she does like a Reiki massage, and she taps into either your higher self or her higher self, and then does protections and clears the space and makes sure you're in a safe space, and asks for guidance from your guides or whoever it comes through.
Or my guides.
Or Taryn's guides. You know, there's been Arcturian and Pleiadian.
I think we've mentioned it before, but we're talking about it again today because we had this session with Sarah that was called Moving Through Sadness, and we've posted that on our Rumble and YouTube, and it's a 2-part session because it went so long, but really it was about how to deal with long-standing trauma and just getting the outside perspective from the higher dimensional energies and consciousness on how to shift into a higher frequency. And we've been talking about it, how when you listen to like a lot of metaphysical teachers and different channels, you'll always hear people say, raise your frequency, raise your vibration.
Raise your frequency.
And
what's the frequency, Kenneth?
What's the frequency, Kenneth?
But yeah, Taryn was saying like, it's very annoying, and even it wasn't like Abraham Hicks, but I can't remember. It was a while ago where we listened to something, and not Abraham Hicks. I would not diss on Abraham Hicks. I think.
Well, that's one of the things that I think Abraham is so good about is really taking you through the simple steps of how to get from here to there. So how to raise your frequency. That's kind of what they're all about, and I think that's really important because it's not easy, and even when we say simple steps, it might sound simple, but it's hard to do.
And they have a very soft approach and relatable approach.
There's dolphins out there right now, just playing. Always, they're playing in the waves right now.
Yeah, even if looking at dolphins helps raise your frequency. But yeah, I mean, I think in particular with deep trauma, you get these overwhelming periods of sadness and or anger, which anger is a higher frequency than sadness, but some of them, when you get triggered, it's not like, some people get, let's say you have, an argument with your spouse or your partner, and then you end up triggering each other, you get mad, and then you kind of work it out, and it could last, an hour or a few hours. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like where it would last for days. It's like
closer to depression.
Yeah, like depression. And you feel like you're in quicksand, and it's sucking you down, and you're trying to do the exercises. I did a lot of talk therapy too for, I think it was five years, or but a lot of journaling. So you try to choose thoughts that raise your vibration, or if you're thinking a thought that feels kind of low or kind of dark, then you think of a better thought, and you try that, and then you keep getting shoved down, and it's like an endless loop. But
and we were talking about for people with severe trauma, like Sarah had, childhood trauma and stuff, or for people in a situation like I'm in, which is the chronic illness kind of thing, or chronic pain. For anyone that's in that kind of a situation, that it's something that doesn't go away. And so when you hear somebody say, oh, just raise your vibration, it's like, well, I'm sitting here in pain and you have no idea what this feels like. How can I just raise my vibration? And it's difficult, it's a task that we have to do, because sitting in a low frequency creates a situation where your healing will not happen. So you do have to take these steps, and you do have to do everything you can to get yourself into a better place. But we are sensitive to the fact that it's difficult for people.
Yeah, and everybody's like, and it sounds like when you're in it, if there are listeners out there who are in, still processing deep trauma or are in chronic pain, and feel like you're suffering, and I guess, we're here to tell you that you can do it and it is possible, and we're going to give you some steps and some guidance on what we do that works for us. And we're also going to say we're not masters at this. This is not something that we teach, but we just felt called to talk about this today because it is something that we've both had to deal with and have both figured out ways to manage it.
I mean, I would say it is something that we teach, it's not something that we preach, like, you have to do this or your life isn't going to go anywhere or something. But it's something that the guides talk about a lot, because a lot of the time when someone's going to get a session, like a channeling session or a Reiki session, or, we all have, every human has stuff that is trying to distract their brain or bring them down in some way. And I mean, I don't know if it's trying to, but it can. Life can bring you down. And so having the ability to find these different methods to lift your energy up, even if it's just a little bit, it does dovetail with the law of attraction. And I think that's where the Abraham Hicks material is so good, is that they're talking about their whole thing is talking about the law of attraction, and the concept of raising your frequency is the concept of shifting your attraction to higher vibrational stuff.
Well, to clarify, we're here as the messengers. So through channeling and through music, we have messages in guiding people, for sessions or whatnot. But it's not something that we don't teach the 5 stages of grief.
Right. We're not psychologists, and that's not our focus.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically, the last few nights I was letting my mind kind of go, and I've had problems with cycling thoughts, and I feel like cycling thoughts is derived from unresolved anger or unresolved trauma, and then your mind tends to fixate on things to try to control things. So I was asking my higher self or the guides, and in a not very deep meditation, but in a meditative state, I channeled this anger through my body into Gaia, and I asked for help. I asked, whatever it is you believe in, if it's God or your higher self or source or God, or whatever,
angels
or whoever you pray to or whoever you meditate towards. So I asked the guys for help with this. I was like, I keep getting stuck in this pattern. And then I recognized, okay, for example, like for your physical health or for your food, you can control your food. And as humans, we tend to have patterns. They can be good patterns or habits, or good habits, or maybe habits that don't have the best outcome for your overall health. Like if you eat berries and oatmeal for breakfast every day. And, we're very consistent with our breakfast and our dinner. And I think for 2 years we had like a berry shake for breakfast and a big salad for dinner. And you get into the habit of it, and then you crave it, and then you want your salad for dinner. And some people might think that's crazy. Like, I can't have a salad every single day. But you can train yourself to do these kinds of things, and not advocating that that's what you should eat every day. I think you should have a well-rounded diet with brown rice,
whatever
and beans
feels good to you,
avocados, and whatever it is. But just saying that we did. So I was like, okay, if I can train myself to eat like this for 2 years, and we used to eat meat. We're vegan now, but we did eat meat, and we ate steak. We got what was the grill thing called?
The George Foreman.
The George Foreman grill. We got a grilled steak and broccoli, and we would eat hard-boiled eggs. It was still
healthy, but it was, healthy with meat. And what we thought was a well-rounded diet with meat and vegetables and, cheese, milk. We ate all of it. I still eat a little bit of cheese because it doesn't bother my stomach, and I like it. And so I don't do a lot of it, but that's something that I'm okay with.
Or gluten. I'm now gluten-free because I realized a sensitivity to it, but it seemed like these kinds of things, like to stop eating meat, seemed impossible. Or whatever it is. I used to eat chocolate every day. And then recently I stopped eating chocolate, and that seemed crazy to me. I'm like, I'm never going to not eat chocolate. I have to eat it, and I would eat it every day. So anyway, I'm like, okay, so if you can change it's like a energy in your physical body, and then somehow chemically that changes your body's pH levels, or and changes physical things, like your weight. If you can do that physically, you can also do that mentally and emotionally. You just have to change the pattern. And I was stuck in a pattern of, masochistic, abusive kind of thought patterns where I would talk down towards myself. And it's not really conscious. It's very subconscious, but the thoughts patterns were just so loud and obsessive that I needed to stop doing that, because you're hurting yourself. And I think taking note of and being aware of these patterns, if you do have cycling thoughts, my theory on cycling thoughts is that they are promoting some kind of self-harm.
Well, and it's interesting to look at like the food thing and then kind of compare it as a metaphor, because cycling thoughts are sort of like that bad habit, right? And like, for instance, with the dairy, like dairy really bothers Sarah. If she eats it, she actually feels a physical response, like bloating or stomach hurts or something like that, or a headache, where I don't feel that. So when we're looking at the diet for Sarah, eating a piece of pizza with gluten and dairy, for the moment it might feel good because it tastes good or it's fun or whatever, but the overall experience of it is more negative than positive. So if you're pulling back and you're looking at the whole experience, then you can start teaching yourself, okay, if I just eat that because it's in front of me or because my friends are eating it, I will feel, maybe it will be fun right now and taste good right now, but overall it will be a net negative. And so you can do the same thing with emotional habits. If you're telling yourself certain things just as a loop and a cycle, but then you stop and you say, wait, when I say this to myself, overall, this kind of self-talk is really making me feel worse. So how can I take that habit in my mind and remove it, like I did with food.
Well, pizza,
It's like if I eat it, it's gonna make me feel like shit. So if I think it, it's gonna make me feel like shit. So how can I just even recognizing that and saying I'm doing this mental behavior that's hurting me, just that I think is a really important awareness piece that a lot of people don't even take the time to be that aware.
It's the tip of the iceberg, but it is very challenging to stop the habit of cycling thoughts, especially if you have problems sleeping. I've noticed like a lot of people, they do that before they go to sleep. They wake up in the middle of the night, their head just starts going. So
if you have stress at work or you're stressing out about some relationship, but yeah, it's like your mind is grasping onto something to explain to yourself why you're not feeling good, why you can be nervous or have anxiety.
And I did for a while. Journaling kind of worked. I would and that's something that my talk therapist suggested, and it's brilliant. It worked for me. It doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody likes to write, but just get the thoughts out. And I would do that, and it did make me feel better, but it didn't stop the habit of the loop. And the loop that I was going towards was, I guess, for the 5 stages of grief, it was sticking me in the first one, which is the denial issue with the trauma that my brain has still not been able to process. So,
what are the 5 stages?
So the 5 stages of grief are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And it was created by this lady, Taryn said she studied her, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in 1969.
Yeah, I don't know that I studied her, but I remember either reading something that she wrote or learning about her. I just remember the name.
Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And, I think that's a beautiful breakdown of the stage that you go through in grief, and it's true. But it kind of, at least for me, the loops can loop you backwards, and then you're all of a sudden you're back into stage 1 again, and you're like, why am I still start feeling overwhelmed with guilt and still in denial? And the thing that's I'll say this and then pass it over to Taryn, but the thing that helped me is something that Rage was talking about in putting your mind to sleep. When I close my eyes, I look slightly above my eyes into my forehead, where I would envision my third eye to be. And then I keep saying calm, calm, and then stop. And that seems to work momentarily. And then the thoughts start rolling in, and then I have to go back to that calm, stop. And then I've tried it several times, and then I would fall asleep. So
that's cool. I've never heard you say that. That's a nice technique. Yeah, and I think with those 5 stages, I think people have different set points, and so depending on what your trauma is or what you're trying to get over, you can get stuck in one part of it. And like for some people, like I would more go towards anger. I had my Italian mom and aunts, and they were very loud, and it was the expression of anger was something that they did very well and very frequently.
They didn't care if they sounded like crazy
women. And so,
there was a lot of women in the family, and they encouraged that.
Well, and it's cultural, where they, they yell a little bit more. They're more vocal about their ideas and their feelings than maybe in some other cultures. Like I would think on my dad's side, my grandmother was British, and British people tend to be more subdued with their emotions, and they're not very expressive with a lot of their emotions. And so it can just be sort of how you're taught to think and express. But if you don't have a way forward, you can get stuck in anger, or you can sort of gravitate towards one of these stages. And even if you push yourself through one time, you can habitually cycle back to whatever that stage is that you're most familiar with.
So like denial, anger, denial, anger.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things like with the denial. I think it's very it's also around the subject itself. There's a lot of denial in the world around, I don't know if you want to talk about.
It's funny, these girls that just passed us by, they're younger girls, teenagers, I think.
Yeah.
And they were saying
mid-teens, like maybe 14, 15.
Yeah, and they were, we're at the beach, so they're wearing bathing suits, bikinis. And what did she say?
They're walking down to the ocean and they're having a conversation, and she's like, I was like, fuck you, pedophile. Get away from me. And then I just backed away from him. And it's quite interesting, to hear young people talking like that now, because when I was that age, nobody was talking about that. And it was
kind of almost normalized, or it was like a taboo, but kind of cool. So you felt cool if you were dating somebody older.
Right. And, but I'm saying, talking about it, people didn't use the word pedophile. And if somebody said, there's a pedophile over there, it was like, what?
You're like, oh my God.
Oh,
it's like a serial killer.
Call the FBI. And it was sort of something that you just couldn't even believe it really was happening. But now I think it's very accepted that this is a really big problem in our society. And so people are starting to be more open about it, and which is great, because that's that shining light on the darkness. When you bring something out of the dark and into the light, if it doesn't vibrate with the light, it has to go. That's the spiritual side of it, or the metaphysical side, is if the vibration doesn't match the light, then it has to go away. It has to find some other place, some other dark place to hide in.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. I was just gonna say, I had one more technique that, if there's anybody struggling with sadness or anger, I feel like for me, this worked really well with anger. Sadness, I work through these layers of depression by giving myself little tasks, and then I'm very goal oriented, is my personality type, I guess, and I love lists. So I'll make lists for myself of what to do that day, and when I check them off, and if I complete the list, I feel a whole lot better, and I probably releases serotonin and dopamine, and just it really makes me feel better. But giving myself easy tasks, 5, I would suggest 5, at the beginning of the day, if you're feeling depressed or really overwhelmingly sad. Step 1, wash 4 dishes. Step 2, make your bed. Step 3, whatever, I have a lot of social media accounts. I would do 1 post. Step 4, take a bath. And then 5, watch a movie. Or something.
Or play with your cat. Sarah likes to play fairies in the yard with our cat.
Yeah, playing fairies in the yard. Yeah, but whatever it is, and the movie one people might not get, but I guess for me it's something that I have to do sometimes. If I tend to work myself too much, so I have to schedule time to turn my brain off. So when I put on a movie, it turns my brain off. So maybe the fifth one won't work. But yeah, if going outside,
I think a lot of people do that. They watch TV, or they do watch YouTube or funny cat videos or something to kind of just like numb out their brain.
But I don't know if it will give people I don't know. Leave a comment and we'd like to hear your thoughts. But but
what's the thing that you like to do to turn off your brain?
Grounding your feet and playing outside with the cat for 5 minutes, and very easy tasks, and you feel like you accomplished something that day that felt at the beginning of the day felt impossible. Like if you wake up and you feel like I cannot do anything today, I just feel terrible, that tends to help me work through sadness. Working through anger was this step that, in a lot of my meditations and my tonic toning transmissions, I connect with Gaia and the heartbeat of Gaia. And she has so much love for us. And, once you feel that connection with, and grounding, that's why grounding is important too. But yeah, I asked the guides for help in how can I dissolve this anger or just let it go. And a lot of it, I could feel it. I'm like, it's not even mine, and I don't want it, and I don't need it. So how do I release this? And you just allow yourself to be a channel. And as a channel, you don't hook on to emotions. They just flow through you. So you let the sensation flow through your body, and if it gets trapped somewhere, then do some breathing, and then breathe into it, breathe out, and then let it flow out through your feet or out through your root chakra into Gaia. And I swear, like, if you keep, it sounds crazy, and it's like, that's not gonna work. And the first few times I did it, it takes some practice, but this last time I did it, it freaking worked, and I did not feel that, and the anger just flew, because I was like, I know this is not mine. And you're saying to yourself, or even saying it out loud, this anger is not mine. I don't want it. This anger does not belong to me. Please take it. And it shifted through it, and then my thoughts were free, and I was like, I felt this sense of freedom that was really beautiful.
It's great. And there's another aspect of what Sarah's saying there is the ownership of the way that we speak and the way that we think casts spells. And that's why they call it spelling, is when you the way that you say words and the way that you talk in your brain creates frequencies. And it's interesting, like when I started channeling, you can feel the difference between the frequency when I'm speaking like myself, and then when I go into the space where I'm channeling, the language and the whole cadence of the speech changes because they're using a different frequency, or they're coming from a different frequency. And so it's interesting, the way that we choose words and the way that we talk to ourselves does create a feeling or a space inside of ourselves that creates a frequency. Mm-hmm. So when Sarah's saying this anger isn't mine, she's giving herself space between herself and the anger. And a lot of people are trained to say, I am angry, or I am sick, or I have cancer, or I am this thing. And when you take ownership over something, you're declaring to the universe that it belongs to you. And so if it's something that you don't want, why are you taking ownership of it?
And then your cells are like, oh yeah, this is me.
Right. Oh
okay,
yeah.
I am cancer. Okay.
Right.
I have it. Okay.
Right. Okay. I have cancer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you could say this is a
like that's the cells talk.
That's the cells. Yeah.
I have it. I am okay.
Right?
We're angry right now. Okay. So angry.
And and really, when you see people that haven't done a lot of work, psychological work or healing work, and as they get older, they start to embody and become that thing that they got stuck in. So like the grumpy old man, right, is somebody that didn't learn how to get himself ungrumpy. And so he becomes a grumpy person. He becomes a chronically grumpy person because his whole energy and his body say, okay, this is us. We're just grumpy. And everything about us is just grumpy. Yeah. And it's like there's no reason for it, but he's adopted, or woman, they've adopted that energy. And so they just believe now that energy is them. It belongs to them. It is them. And that's just the way it is.
You are the programmer for your body, for your cells,
right.
For the water. Your body's made
you're
up of
writing
water.
You're the coder, for all the computer people out there.
It's like the AI.
You're the coder, and you're writing the code of how your body and your mind are going to behave. And if you continually write the code of I'm a victim or any of these other low energy things, then you are programming yourself literally to become that, because you're the programmer.
And water, I do feel like, we are 80% water?
Something like 90, I think. Yeah.
Every time I go in water, I took a bath. This is when I had the flu, and I was like, and I felt so much better. And I was like, and I put nice salts in it, and we have frankincense, myrrh, and tea tree, and all this kind of stuff. And I remember I was like, oh, I feel better. And it was like, we have these habits of taking a shower every day, or taking a bath, or taking whatever, or maybe if you have a pool, going in your pool, or we actually don't go in the water that much because it's pretty cold, but yeah, I was like saying to Taryn, I'm like, I feel like we're meant to go in water every day. Like there's some kind of thing.
I've been saying that forever. We should live on a lake.
But not in the shower. Like everyone settles for the shower. But yeah, go into a lake or go under a waterfall and just kind of cleanse your body, and you get to start fresh. And you can use the water as a tool to kind of hit the reset button, like sage, and kind of like clearing out, and then putting an intention in the water of what you want to feel that day. If it's happiness or bliss, or if those are too high a frequency, maybe it's contentment, or maybe it's getting some stuff done today that is your intention.
You can also, this is one thing that the guides talk about a lot in the sessions, is you can just put light into the water. So this is like a scientific thing. Water can be programmed, and they have done studies on water where this is I think we mentioned this before, and probably a lot of people that are listening to this podcast would know about it, but Dr. Emoto, and he took glasses of water and he put a label on the glass. One would be like anger, and one would be peace or love. And then somebody would hold the glass and think about something, or just look at the word anger. And it actually physically changes the water molecules into different shapes and different frequencies. Similar to cymatics, how, the sand, when you put different frequencies, the sand will arrange itself into different geometries. So it's a scientific thing to program water. And so when you're in the water, if you're in a shower or you're in a bath, you can program the water with, like Sarah's saying, an intention or an emotion, or you can also just imagine light. And light itself reprograms. And so that's why the guides use a lot of light to do different healings, like violet
white light.
Right. Violet light is a very transformational light. So if you have, if you're sick and you have an illness that you're trying to get rid of, the violet light will transform that energy into a higher frequency. So that's a good one for shifting.
We also program our drinking water. We would write, love or happiness, or,
And you know what's
self-worth or feeling accomplished or something, and actually write it out and then tape it on our water.
And what's really funny is, you know how every single time we come out and do a podcast or come to the beach, there's dolphins in the water. We have on our water, we get the 5-gallon waters bottles, and we have the, you know, the spigot. And on our
reverse osmosis.
Yeah, on our water holder, we have, it's a ceramic container, and there's dolphins on it. And literally every time we drink water, we're drinking water from a ceramic container that has dolphins on it. And every time we come to the ocean, there's dolphins in the ocean. So, like, I just kind of put that together.
Yeah,
but
that's interesting.
You know, it's something that, you know, it's kind of like a little nod from the higher frequencies of, like, yes, you are actually changing your environment. And even if it's just the fact that you're looking at the ocean and noticing it where someone else might not, like this woman over here is sitting and reading a book. I don't know if she's ever looked over at the ocean and seen the dolphins, but for her, if she hasn't, there were no dolphins today, right? So it's kind of like, what are you looking for in your experience? And if you're looking for things that make you happy, and you're looking for these magical things, like, you know, if you're out playing with your cat in the yard and you see sparkles in the air and you call them fairies, the more you do that, the more chance those sparkles are fairies, right? So it's like you can actually reprogram your matrix. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about with this raising your frequency. Is it's little things.
I guess, yeah, Taryn, if you want to go into, you know, she's experienced a very traumatic health crisis and almost died several times from this illness, you know, and experienced, you know, all that comes with it, obviously depression and hopelessness and all that kind of stuff. But I guess, do you want to, well, let me say what I was going to say. You know, mornings were the most painful for Taryn when she'd wake up in the morning. She would have really terrible sleep. She couldn't sleep, you know, and we don't drink alcohol. And I think when she first was sick, she was still drinking. I think I had stopped, but Taryn was in so much pain that she would drink. So it would, you know, and then you'd drink more, so you'd make sure you would sleep, but then you wouldn't sleep. But anyway, we eventually, you know, for anybody who's drank and then stopped drinking, it's really hard to regulate your sleep patterns after that. So anyway, the mornings would be terrible for her. So she came up with a thing of reprogramming, like, her thoughts in the morning to positive thoughts, appreciation mantras, and then came up with a routine in the morning where she brings light in, like talking about bringing the light in. She wakes up, she makes her bed, she makes my bed, and then she, like, opens the curtains and turns on lights, you know, maybe does dishes or something. But I felt like it helped her get out of this funk, and gave her a nice positive start for the day. Yeah, and I think that's, you know, having a little routine, because it will be, you know, and for anyone who knows what I'm talking about, I'm sorry that you're going through what you're going through, because it is really rough. And when you're waking up in pain, it's like you have to consciously make this decision. I'm going to get out of bed even though I don't want to. I'm so tired and I'm still in pain. And especially with no doctors helping. Like, we went to, you know, 7 different kinds of specialists, and even the nice ones were nice, but just said I can't help her. So,
yeah, or here, take some gabapentin. Which, if anyone knows about gabapentin. Have you tried Advil? Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Take 4 Advil.
Have you tried Advil? They gave her a prescription for it was a regular dose of Advil. No, remember the one they gave you? It was just a regular dose of Advil. Yeah. You're like, what?
Yeah, it's so silly. But so the thing is, I have, what I will do is come up with a plan of, you know, what I'm, like Sarah was saying, a list of what I'm going to do that day. And once you get up and you have this little routine of things that you're doing, it does distract your mind. So I can be in pain, and then I get up, and then I start making the bed, and I'm still working through it, and I open the curtains, and I'm still working through it. And then by the time I get out and get going on whatever it is, doing the dishes or something, I start to change my thoughts into, okay, what's next, right? So it's like I could stay in the place where I'm thinking about, this sucks and I wish it was different, or I can change my thoughts into, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do next?
And just to bring some realism to this, it's not always like, I know how people talk about this, or maybe you've seen, you know, a TikTok video or Instagram video of people on how their techniques on what they do in the morning and their daily mantra, and it's very annoying. Like, and it's not that clean when you're actually living your life. And, you know, Taryn and I, we would have arguments about this because, you know, when you live with someone every day and you see, and it sounds like, why would I be arguing with Taryn about this when she's in this state? But it's like when you see someone that you love choosing to do things that are hurting themselves and impacting their environment, it gets you angry.
Or
eventually.
Not, and I do want to say, or not even choosing, but doing. It's an unconscious choosing, right? So it's like, if when I would wake up in pain, I would be grumpy. I would be in a bad state. So every morning I'm waking up, I'm in a negative place because I'm in pain and it's hard for me to get up and get out of bed. But
and sometimes
I can go with that, which is not a choice. It's an unconscious situation, or I can make an active choice to not go with
But I'm saying that the beauty of life and the human experience is the when it gets to a point where you're in a habit that's bad, and your loved one or someone else you know are friends with or whatever notices it, that's a beautiful time, because usually when someone else notices it, that is the other person. Like, that's when I'm noticing it, that's Taryn noticing it and calling for help. And it's like her higher self and my higher self are communicating, and
you're the messenger.
I'm the messenger, but she's the one guiding it. So it's like if someone else is saying, like, whatever it is, like God,
you're such an asshole. Why are you such an asshole all the time?
You know, you're basically, that means they're ready to
help you. Not be an asshole.
Heal and come to the other side of it. And, you know, so it's very messy, and it's not always clean. But as long as you know the outcome is that you want to live your happiest, most fulfilled life, and your loved one wants to live their happiest, most fulfilled life, that's all that matters. And the details don't get caught up in the details, and don't get caught up in the bickering and the arguing and who did this or whatever, because that just doesn't really matter. And, you know, that the outcome is, it's like when I was going through my trauma, when I was first experiencing it and getting these flashbacks, and even now when I have moments of doubt, you know, it's not like a very happy go bliss, okay, well, just do this mantra and you'll feel better. That's not how you talk to your loved one. You're like, okay, you're doing that thing again.
Right.
And
I think that just the desire to change the ability to change is one of the major things about raising your frequency. Is you have to have in your mind the thought that I am willing to do something different than I normally do in order to accomplish this. It's like if you want to...
You're open to changing your pattern.
Right. And it's like if you want to lose weight, you are willing to stop eating that thing that you always eat and to get up and go for a walk. But if you're not willing to do those two things, you can wish that you would lose weight all day long, but it's not going to happen. So in this 3D world, there is a component of action that has to happen. And so if you're constantly in a victim state, and that is easy to be in because it's a hard world and it's been really harsh and there's a lot of unfairness, and most people are victims of something. But you can be a constant victim of your life, or you can choose to take that experience and make it into something. And for what we have been through, I'm just talking about from Sarah and my perspective and Rage, and I look at us as warriors of light. We are literally like embodied angels, and I believe everybody is, all the good people that are here working through this situation on the planet that we're in right now. If you're here and you're still...
Probably the people that are listening.
Yeah.
If you're listening, you're probably the good people.
Right. And if you're still in a generally positive place after everything we've been through on this planet, then you are a warrior and you're bringing in light. So, the energy of coming into this matrix and changing it and uplifting it means that you are channeling light from a higher frequency into this lower frequency place that is now raising its frequency. And so all of us doing these little steps every day just to move forward in life is literally changing the frequency of the planet that we live on. And this planet is shifting, and we are not only shifting with it, but we are shifting it. We are responsible for that whole frequency, for the reprogramming of this experience.
I think that message was on my tee. I can't remember verbatim, but it was like inner peace creates world peace or something like that. Or inner peace creates but yeah, it's like once you find that peace within yourself, or I feel like if you make that leap, if you figure out how to overcome this sadness, anger, bad habits, victimhood, whatever it is, and you take that leap, you're taking the whole collective consciousness with you, and that's what's helping raise the vibration on the planet.
And I think, little things like what we're doing right now, where you're sharing a situation that could break somebody. And we've both been through situations that could have broken us, and did in a lot of ways. And yet we are choosing to share that information, to move through it and move past it. And if you just do that, if you've had a trauma and you just get over it a little bit, you've literally shifted the energy and the space around you and around that trauma. If somebody can go through what you've been through and make it out and still be a positive, good person, then you win. You win the game. Yep. You made it. And so I think...
And then now what?
And I do think that's another aspect that I just wanted to touch on, is that, like Sarah was suggesting, making the list, right? There is something to also allowing yourself to go through this process in, like she was saying, in a messy way. And if you create that list and you only do 2 out of the 5 things, that has to also be okay. You have to also give yourself the space to say, you know what? I tried, and I didn't do all the things I wanted to do, but I really made an effort to do it, and I'm happy with myself. Mm-hmm. And I think that I am awesome.
Enough. And telling yourselves, I am enough. And I set out to do nothing today, and I did 2 things today. So that's more than enough.
Right. Or I set out to do nothing, and I did nothing. And that's great, because a lot of people would run around like doing stupid stuff just to make themselves feel like they did something. But I'm solid enough in myself that I can do nothing and still feel good about myself. Mm-hmm. That's also the other aspect to the frequency, is allowing yourself the space to be where you are and to accept that I don't feel good today, and that's okay. And I'm going to sit like a lump on the couch and watch a movie. Or I'm going to take whatever little energy I have and go hang out in the grass with my cat. And I love myself enough to allow myself to do whatever it is and still congratulate myself, still feel good. And I think that the self-harm and the self-deprecation that a lot of us were taught is one of the aspects that keeps the frequencies so low.
I mean, it depends on what you're, I think humans were just meant to exist and reproduce. And if we just go into our, or not, but just if we just feel into our instincts and we've, from this world, the way it's been set up is we had to shut down a lot of instincts. And even some people's instinct to want to kill somebody. 327. And that sounds like a terrible instinct, but some people are very evil and dark in this world, and to have a response to that, to want to kill them, is not very humane. But why are you having that response? And that's something also we kind of touched on, which maybe we could talk in the next episode. But the person's response to a trauma or a sickness or whatever it is, like for example, Taryn's aunts, some of them were, I don't know if they were diagnosed bipolar or something, mm-hmm. And they said that they have men crawling in their brain, and we were talking about that, and I was like,
one of them did.
Yeah, one of them had men, but I was like, maybe if they said it like, I'm having this horrible pain in my head, it's a tingling sensation that feels like it's footsteps, and it feels like I feel like I can hear someone in my head. Like, maybe if she said it like that, maybe she wouldn't have sounded as crazy, but she said it the way she said it, and everyone just dismissed it and said she was crazy. But Taryn was bringing up the point, like, but she's having that experience, so that experience is valid, and whatever the world did to her to make her think that people are walking in her head, the world has a responsibility in that, meaning humans, for our participation in the collective consciousness has a responsibility in that. If we made one human feel like they have people walking inside their head and that human is suffering, there's something wrong with the world.
Right.
And okay, yes, there is individual responsibility, but this woman is screaming for help, and no one is able to recognize what was done to that person, and that made her crazy.
And that was also at a time when they were trying to start medicating people, and so instead of listening to the experience of the person, and I wish I could have done a session with her, see how that would go. But at that time they were just giving them lithium or putting them in the crazy house.
Maybe you would see the people that were walking in her head.
Yeah, and maybe she's seeing into a different dimension. We don't know. But the thing is, I think people are starting to, the awakened people and the light workers are starting to recognize that there is a lot happening that is unseen but real. And it used to be that if you couldn't see it, it wasn't real. It didn't exist, you know. And now we know there's a lot of stuff that truly exists that we can't see because our eyes only pick up certain frequencies of light. And, you know, so recognizing, I think this is the other thing, is if you're in a situation or in a relationship where somebody is going through this and it's not you, but someone is in a dark place or a negative place and maybe they're trying to change, maybe they're not, giving them the space and the little prompts to help them shift just a little bit is also a really nice thing that you're doing to support them raising their own frequency. And instead of getting mad at someone who's in a low place, you can give them little prompts, say, oh, look at the cat, isn't he cute? Oh, look at the dog, like he's trying to say hi, you know, or something, allowing them to shift their frequency without berating them or getting mad at them for being in that low frequency. And I think that's something that we can all work on, helping other people to do this as well.
So raising our frequency.
Yeah, so I did want to talk briefly about breathing, and I think that's kind of the last thing on the menu that we have. But you know, for the physical aspect of the body, and also for the moving yourself into a space like a meditative space, or even a channeling space, breathing is the key. Like, to me, breathing is it's the, what do you call it? The connector between our physical realm and the unseen realm, the higher dimensions. And whenever I go into the space where I'm starting to channel, there's like 7 dolphins right there. That's so funny.
They breathe underwater.
It's interesting when I'm editing my videos.
Do they breathe underwater?
No, I don't think so. They blow, like, see, they just blew out the hole in the back. When I'm editing my videos and I go back and listen to it, I can hear at the beginning of the session, when I first start talking, I'm kind of talking like myself, and then I can hear my breathing change before I hear my voice change. And I'm starting to, like, listening to it as a third party, I'm starting to I can hear when I'm shifting vibration, and I can hear when I'm shifting into an opening space that's bringing in that higher energy. And there is this emptiness that you're creating inside of yourself that allows for the light to come in and then for the higher consciousness to come in. And I think the breathing triggers something in your brain and in your muscles, in your bones, in your structure, that either holds tension and grabs everything and squeezes it tight, or starts to relax and open up. And when you relax and open up, that's when you're creating space for this light and for this shifting energy to happen. So going into a very slow, deep inhale, and then you exhale. You exhale as long as you can, and then you leave a little space at the end where you're not breathing, just like a pause. And then you inhale. When you feel your body wants to take in the air, you don't do it because you have to, or because you're thinking you should. You do it because your body's asking, okay, inhale. And then you exhale. And at the end of that exhale, everything kind of gets quiet. And I think that's the space between the breath that you can start to shift your frequency. Like, I kind of felt it shifting right there.
And they do have, if you're not good at breathing.
A lot of us aren't.
Yeah, I mean, I remember they used to say, smoking would calm your anxiety because people would go on smoke breaks, when it does the opposite. But you were actually, I mean, unless you're doing natural tobacco, which they did do, I think in Native American cultures when you had colds, but that's when you're smoking, that's when you're actually breathing. You're
taking the time to stop what you're doing and take a breathing break.
And holding your breath. I forget the amount of seconds, but it was something like breathe in for 7 seconds, hold for 8, release for 8, or something like that, was to help anxiety. And I've done that. And it does help anxiety because you're only thinking about your breath. And then it does actually change your state. And then just recently when I was sick, I practiced making tones, like some of the chakra vowel tones. Ooh, oh, ah. So ah is the heart chakra. So just making those sounds, and then, you know, if you're in a space where you can really belt out the sounds properly, you know, I could make a video on how to properly belt sounds.
I was just thinking that. I think you should do that.
Yeah. But it shook the mucus that was stuck into my lungs, and then it really helped kind of get it out. And then I was like, oh, you know, you should make some sounds when you're not feeling well, but also performing sounds and toning does release endorphins, and it does raise your vibration. So,
and it makes you breathe. It makes you control, you know, you're working with your breath.
You know, so yeah, that would be fun. We could do a video.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll do it. I could be the subject if you want. You could teach me how to do the sounds. But yeah, I think the thing is, if you have a brain that likes to have a structure, then picking one of the breathing techniques, you know, I'm sure you can find 1,000 of them on YouTube, but that seems like, you know, okay, breathe in for 8 counts, hold it, breathe out for 7 counts. For me, that doesn't work as much because I don't really like structure. Mm-hmm. I like more openness. So what I do, and from my dancing, what I do is when I breathe, I let it move through my body. So I feel, I breathe in and I will hold it, and I'll notice where I have tension. Oh, I have tension in my ribs.
Do you visualize the air going into your ribs?
No, I don't do visuals as much. I feel it. So I'll breathe in and I'll be like, you know, and especially because my physical structure is so wonky, is I'll say, okay, on the right side of my ribs, I have a lot of tension. So I'll do some kind of exhale and try to adjust my physical body. So my rib cage, I'll push it over to the left. But I'm working in between pushing and releasing. So when I truly exhale, I can feel my body go, oh, wait, why am I holding tension here? And then it will just relax without me having to tell it. And then I feel, okay, now that I'm in this position, I feel something else. So you're working through the different areas of your body that feel tension, and you're allowing for it to shift from your ribs to your hip, and to your other hip, you know.
Yeah, we naturally like massage. We'll massage ourselves or areas that are painful, but also putting a hand on the area, I think that's painful, also helps.
Or doing some gentle, you know, yoga positions, like the guides did talk about. There's a lot of, you know, stuff about yoga now that can turn people off, and then some people get like totally obsessed with it in a weird way. But I think doing little positions like the child's pose is really nice for opening up tension in your back. And when you release tension in your physical self, you're also releasing tension in your emotional self and in your psychological self, because it's all the same. It all works together.
You know, and light exercising is actually, that's, I think, some people get crazy with it, but even just spreading your arms out.
Yeah, or the Shavasana, laying on your back with your arms open, and then if you feel, okay, I'm in Shavasana, but now I feel like my spine is a little twisted, then I'll reach my leg over and do a gentle twist, you know. So you're working with yourself and you're becoming your own practitioner, and you're taking responsibility for the positive stuff instead of saying I'm a broken person and I need to go someone to help fix me. I can say to myself, I am the practitioner and I'm in control of how to fix me. And if I breathe this way and I move my body this way, that releases tension. And then if I do this, that releases cycling thoughts. So you become the person in charge of your own situation. And a lot of people, that's a huge shift that a lot of people don't want to take, because that means then there is no expert that can fix you, and truly there isn't, except for you. And maybe your guides and your team and whatever, but you are the one who's going to fix you. And you can ask for help from a massage therapist or this person or that person, but in general, it's you. You're in charge.
Yes, I agree. Okay.
It's your frequency, Kenneth.
It's your frequency, Kenneth. We were going to play the song, but we didn't want to get flagged for copyright. So
if you want, go listen to the REM song, What's the Frequency, Kenneth?
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. We're so excited. I finally feel like it's like the new year now.
Yeah, I feel like we're back. I mean, the fires really did stop everything here for a while. And I do want to say, you know, I do feel for anybody who was involved with the fires or the hurricanes or, you know, any of these. There's a flood now, you know, any of these things that are happening on the planet. You know, we have a lot of sympathy and empathy for people that are going through tough stuff. And
maybe if we just connect with Gaia, maybe she'll help wash it all away.
Well, I think things are definitely changing. We have more water here in Los Angeles than we've had in years. And, you know, we're just looking at all the positive changes that are happening and that are coming. And we're going to just stay focused on that and the dolphins.
And if you have any questions about any of these techniques, you know, if you're interested in doing a channeling session with Taryn, it's really awesome.
If you're in the Los Angeles area, I haven't done remote stuff yet. Maybe at some point I'll give that a try, but I do prefer the in-person, you know, experience on the massage table, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty immersive. And also same with Sarah, if you want to do a sound session, if you want to kind of learn how to make these chakra sounds and get into your voice, I think she's going to probably do a video at some point soon. And you know, she will do she can do private sessions as well with the bowls and sound healing or sound bath, or teaching you how to tap into your you know, your throat chakra, which is very important for manifestation and
I have been writing,
creating what you want.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have been writing some new songs, so if you did tune in, you'll kind of hear where this transmission is. Whoa, my ear started ringing. This transmission is coming from.
We usually think that's the guides talking.
Yeah, for this new song, so I think I'm excited. So.
And where can they find your songs if they want to hear what you've already got?
My artist name is Sarah Bennett, SARAH BEN 3, the number 3 T. So
that's where on Spotify or?
Yeah, it's on Spotify or SoundCloud or Apple or Deezer or Tweezer or whatever platform.
We
should
YouTube.
Put
them up on YouTube and Rumble on our M Theory Space channel.
Yeah, I mean they're up on YouTube.
On the M Theory Space?
Well, they're on my artist page too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, she's got some cool songs that talk about, you know, ascension and all of these topics that we talk about. And her songs are packed with lyrics. So it's kind of a whole experience. It's a whole trip if you really listen to the songs. And, yeah.
All right, guys.
Well, thanks for tuning in. We're happy to be back. Happy New Year. I guess we saw you since we talked since New Year, but happy inauguration.
That's why it feels like a new year.
Yeah, it does. Maybe because it's finally not so cold here. And
we're on our 6th podcast, and we will see you for the 7th.
And happy soon. President's Day, happy Q Day, and we love you guys.
217. Woo!